Hi, Sherita. I really enjoyed reading your post, and I wanted to take a few moments and just respond to it. There were quite a few things that you mentioned that just really resonated with me. The first thing you talked about was the consistent renewal of the mind and how it helps align one's thinking with God's word to overcome temptations and other struggles. As I read that, it really got me thinking about the new pathways that are created through addiction, which basically is why they say it's a disease, and why recovery is so, which they've said, we learned in our course that recovery is a lifelong process. And I think about PTSD and how trauma too can recreate new pathways in the brain. And so I've been learning a lot lately about neuroplasticity and the ability to create new pathways in the brain. And so it always brings me to that verse when Paul talks about renewing your mind. And so I just love that you brought that up. And as a counselor, I'm always thinking, like, how can we even make the word a practical tool? Because when I think about addiction and a lot of the trauma that's even causing addiction or becoming like a catalyst because of it, or a trauma being a catalyst for addiction, I'm always thinking, like, how can we be God is very practical in his ways. And so how can we be practical with the word and use it as a tool and a gift, even in the counseling room? And so what would it look like to practically renew our minds? And so I know Dr. Caroline Leaf has come out with a lot of stuff about cleansing the mind and neuroplasticity, and from a Christian perspective, that's really been interesting to just learn about and grow. I'm not clinical by any means, but learning the neuroscience behind addiction has just really been eye-opening for me. And so I enjoyed that, what you mentioned about the renewal of the mind. And the other thing you mentioned was total dependence on God. And then the last thing you mentioned was the importance of accountability partners. And it got me thinking about here at our church, we have a counseling department, or ministry, I should say. And there are 3 things that I always teach on in the classroom. And it's communion, community, and counseling. When I bring people into the counseling room, or when they come into the counseling room seeking help, we're really big on discipleship in our church. And I always tell people healing's going to come through these 3 avenues: communion with God, the community you're in, and then counseling, going deeper and doing heart work. And so I can see how this would be even really beneficial, and how it is beneficial for those in recovery. Even when I went to visit some recovery groups for our project, I was just blown away by the amount of support that they give one another. And it challenged me of how can we step into this in a deeper level, even just within the church? For those of us who might not even be in recovery, how can we be more of accountability for one another? So I can definitely see how these are just really great tools to be using for those who are in the recovery process and who find themselves in tempting situations. And community can just be a great asset. And even in the counseling room, I see it where there are some things that the Father can only heal through community. It has to come. He designed us to connect with others. And so anyways, I enjoyed your post. Thank you so much.